The great city of London, known for its historical landmarks, modern skyscrapers, ancient markets, and famous bridges. It's arguably the financial capital of the world and home to over 11,000 people. Wait, what? 11,000? That's right, but the City of London is a different place from London. Though London is also known for its historical landmarks, modern skyscrapers, ancient markets, famous bridges, and is home to the government royal family and 7 million people. But if you look at a map of London crafted by a careful cartographer, that map will have a 1 square mile hole near the middle. It's here where the City of London lives inside the city named London. Despite these confusingly close names, the two Londons have separate city halls and elect separate mayors who collect separate taxes to fund separate police who enforce separate laws. The mayor of the City of London has a fancy title, the Right Honourable the Lord Mayor of London, to match his fancy outfit. He also gets to ride in a golden carriage and work in a guild hall, while the Mayor of London has to wear a suit, ride a bike, and work in an office building. The City of London also has its own flag and its own crest, which is awesome and makes London's lack of either twice as sad. To top it off, the City of London gets to act more like one of the countries in the UK than just an oddly located city, for, uniquely, the corporation that runs the City of London is older than the United Kingdom by several hundred years. So how did the UK end up with two Londons, one inside of the other? Because Romans. 2,000 years ago, they came to Great Britain, killed a bunch of druids, and founded a trading post on the River Thames and named it Londinium. Being Romans, they got to work doing what Romans do, enforcing laws, increasing trade, building temples, public baths, roads, bridges, and a wall to defend their work. And it's this wall which is why the current city of London exists. For though the Romans came and the Romans went, and kingdoms rose and kingdoms fell, the wall endured protecting the city within. And the city, governing itself and trading with the world, grew rich. 1,000 years after the Romans, yet still 1,000 years ago, when William the Conqueror came to Great Britain to conquer everything and begin modern British history, he found the City of London with its sturdy walls more challenging to defeat than farmers on open fields. So he agreed to recognize the rights and privileges City of Londoners were used to in return for them recognizing him as the new king. Though after the negotiation, William quickly built towers around the City of London, which were just as much about protecting William from the locals within as defending against the Vikings from without. This started a 1,000-year-long tradition whereby monarchs always reconfirmed that yes, the City of London is a special, unique place that's best left to its own business, while simultaneously distrusting it. Many a monarch thought the City of London was too powerful and rich, and one even built a new capital city nearby, named Westminster, to compete with the City of London and hopefully suck power and wealth away from it. This was the start of the Second London. As the centuries passed, Westminster grew and merged with nearby towns, eventually surrounding the walled-in and still separate City of London. But people began to call the whole urban collection London, and the name became official when Parliament joined the towns together under a single municipal government with a mayor. But the Mayor of London still doesn't have power over the tiny City of London, which has rules and traditions like nowhere else in the country and possibly the world. For example, the ruling monarch doesn't just enter the City of London on a whim, but instead asks for permission from the Lord Mayor at a ceremony. While it's not required by law, the ceremony is unusual to say the least. The City of London also has a representative in Parliament, the Remembrancer, whose job it is to protect the city's special rights. Because of this, laws passed by Parliament sometimes don't apply to the City of London, most notably voting reform laws, which we'll discuss next time. But if you're curious for a preview, unlike anywhere else in the UK, elections in the City of London involve medieval guilds and modern companies. Finally, the City of London also owns and operates land and buildings far outside its border, making it quite wealthy. Once you start looking for the city's crest, you'll find it in lots of unexpected places, most notably on Tower Bridge, which, while being in London, is operated by the City of London. These crests everywhere, when combined with the City of London's age and wealth and quasi-independent status, make it an irresistible temptation for conspiracy nuts. Add in the oldest Masonic temple, and it's not long before the crazy part of the internet starts yelling about secret societies controlling the world via the finance industry from inside the city-state of London. And don't forget the reptilian alien queen who's really behind it all. But conspiracy theories aside, the City of London is not an independent nation like the Vatican is, no matter how much you might read it on the internet. Rather, it's a unique place in the United Kingdom with a long and very complicated history. The wall that began all this 2,000 years ago is now mostly gone, so the border between London and its secret inner city isn't so obvious. Though, next time you're in London, if you come across a small dragon on the street, he still guards the entrance to the city, in a country in a country. The City of London is a unique place. It's the city, in a country that runs its government with perhaps the most complicated elections in the world, involving medieval guilds, modern corporations, mandatory titles, and fancy hats, all of which are connected in this horrifying org chart. Why so complicated? Though the new skyscrapers might make you think the City of London is relatively young, it's actually the oldest continuous government on the island of Great Britain. The City of London predates the empire that Victoria ruled, the kingdoms Anne united, and the Magna Carta that John reluctantly signed. While the London which surrounds the city only got to electing its first mayor in 2000, the list of mayors who've governed the City of London is almost 700 people long, going back more than 1,000 years. The City of London's government is so old that there's no surviving record of exactly when it was born. There are only documents, like the Magna Carta, which mention the pre-existing powers the City of London already had at that point in time. So while a government like the United States officially gets its power from the people, and Parliament gets its power from the Crown, which in turn gets it from God, the City of London gets its power from time immemorial, meaning that the city is so old it just is. And that age brings with it unusual and complicated traditions. The most notable of these, perhaps, is that in City of London elections, companies get votes. Quite a lot, actually. About 3/4 of the votes cast in city elections are from companies, with the remaining 1/4 from residents. The way it works is that the bigger a company is, the more votes it gets from the City of London. The companies then give their votes to select employees who work but do not live within the city, and it's these employees who do the actual voting at election time. The result is that the Common Council, the bureaucratic beating heart of the City of London, has about 20 Common Councillors elected by residents of the city and about 80 elected by companies of the city. The reasoning behind this unusual tradition is that for every one person who lives in the City of London, 43 people commute in every day. In total, that's 300,000 commuters using city services and whose employment depends on the City of London being business friendly. The man in charge of the Common Council and who heads the city's government is the Right Honourable the Lord Mayor of London. Now, suppose you want to be Lord Mayor. Surely, just as in that other London, all you'll need do is A. be a British Commonwealth or EU citizen who has B. lived in the city for a year and who C. wins the election, right? No. In the City of London, that's not nearly enough. Ready for the qualifications list? Before you can even run for Lord Mayor, you need to have been a sheriff of the City of London. But before you can be sheriff, you need to be an alderman. What's an alderman? Well, the City of London is divided into 25 wards, and each ward elects one alderman to represent it on the Court of Aldermen, a subsection of the Common Council. But before you can run for alderman, you need to gain freeman status. And who gives out freeman status? Why, none other than the very Court of Aldermen you're trying to get elected to, which might just seem like a conflict of interest. Luckily, there is another way to get freeman status. Join one of the city's guilds. Sadly, they aren't called guilds, they're called livery companies, a name which is both more boring and less descriptive, but the remnants of medieval guilds, many of them are, and within the city there are 108 of them to choose from, including, but not limited to, the apothecaries, the fishmongers, the masons, the mercers, the scientific instrument makers, the bankers, the shipwrights, the wheelwrights, the butchers, the bakers, 2 different candlestick makers, and the most exciting of all, the chartered accountants. Many of these guilds, like the Fletchers, have become charities, but some are still active, such as the goldsmiths who test the quality of British coinage, and the hackney carriage drivers who license taxi drivers. To join one of these guilds, you'll either need to meet the professional requirements, or for the charities like the haberdashers, you'll need the approval of 2 existing members. If you meet none of the livery company's membership requirements, but you think you'll be a clever clogs and start your own livery company and grant yourself freeman status, tough luck, because new livery companies need to be approved by, you guessed it, the Court of Aldermen. But let's assume one way or another you get the official freeman status certificate. Now you can finally run for alderman of a ward, after the Lord Chancellor's Advisory Committee also approves of you. But that small barrier passed, you can win election as alderman in either one of the 4 wards where people live or the 21 wards where companies live. Once on the Court of Aldermen, to continue your path to the mayor's office in Guildhall, you must now be elected as sheriff. But this time it's the members of the livery companies who pick the sheriffs. So if the livery company members elect you as sheriff after you have successfully completed your term, then you can finally run for mayor. But surprisingly, residents of the City of London don't vote for the mayor. Our old friends on the Court of Aldermen do. So in summary, once you get your freeman status from either the Court of Aldermen or the livery companies, and after your ward elects you as alderman, and then the livery companies elect you as sheriff, and after your term as sheriff ends, but while you're still on the Court of Aldermen, then you can run for mayor. And assuming the other aldermen select you, you can finally take your place as the Right Honourable the Lord Mayor of London. For 1 year with no salary. And you have to cover your own expenses, which will be quite considerable, as your new job consists mostly of making hundreds of speeches a year around the world promoting city business. But you do get that fancy hat, which just might make it all worthwhile.